Hello, everybody, and welcome to the June 24th episode of Trips and Traps. I'm Andy Serling, joined by Eric Donovan.
This will be our final episode of Trips and Traps in the wet month of June. We can only hope that when we turn the page to July, things will be drier and we'll be on the turf more.
Yes, we can't be on less. We can't be less wet or more wet, and we can't be on the turf less. But hopefully, we'll be able to get some good turf racing this week. And of course, we're starting this Wednesday with 4 turf races, so hopefully, we'll have stuff. We only have 3 races for you from last week, and we're going to try to show some horses that did have tough trips. We're just not so sure how much it's going to mean down the road.
Well, the first one we'll take a look at is from Wednesday, race number 3. We're going to look at the one Half a Note, who is going to break from inside post here. And Half a Note's going to originally get into a good spot here behind a couple of duelers, and Todd Got Even and Elixir, but things will change as the race goes on. Yeah,
and this is a classic example of a horse who does have an obvious and very noticeable, and we'll even show the head on the stretch, difficult trip, and it's very possible he could have won this race if he had gotten a clean trip. The problem is he also has many things go very right for him, and the other problem is he's Half a Note.
Yeah, Half a Note's had a number of chances, 2 for 20, not 2 for 21, I should say, a lifetime. But, I thought this was an encouraging sign because I think he got back into form. He's shown in the past that he was off form, some spotty racing from Half a Note. He gets shuffled back on the turn here a little bit, but I'm not so concerned about that just because I think the pace is fast up front. Although I will say that the 2 pace setters don't quit here. They keep on running 1-2 down to the wire, but the real jackpot that Half a Note's going to get in is having to be inside and having to try to come through horses when you got 2 duelers in front of you, and no one's moving off the rail for you.
Right, and Ken Desormeaux is whipping him right-handed at this point, and you've got a horse that's got to come out for room, and I'm not saying he could have gotten out for room, but you wonder if maybe he had been a little bit more assertive early to try to get him out, if the horse might have been able to get out, because it's another situation where there is room between the first 2 finishers, but most horses, or many horses, won't go through and split horses so readily. They want to get outside and make that clear run on the outside, and as you can see very well in this head-on, he doesn't get the room to make the clear run outside.
No, I think it was excellent race riding by Ken Desormeaux on the number 6 horse in the race, MS Posse, who finishes 4th. They bump a little there in the stretch there, you see, but Kent was trying to keep Half a Note pinned down inside there and try to make it tough on Half a Note, and I thought he did a great job there getting that horse down in that spot.
Yeah, I agree, and I was wrong. Alan Garcia is the one riding this horse, right? Ken Desormeaux, as I misspoke, was riding the other horse, and I agree with you. It's very good race riding because you're holding your position, and you're trying to give your mount the best chance to win, and sometimes that's to hinder another horse who's got himself into a jackpot, and Half a Note got himself into a jackpot. My problem is now, I would say that he had a sort of perfect trip with the trouble that prevented him from doing his best running, but, the pace held together so well. I don't know how fast his pace was.
Yeah, that's a good point. I would give him another shot, though. I would say that, considering that the pace setters held together that well, I'm going to give him another chance here. I think this horse has some talent, and on the day when he's right, he can actually be okay if he gets a good kind of setup, and he had that kind of setup here. Just things didn't really go all that well for him in the stretch.
I agree. I just cannot bet on Half a Note. He's just been in too many spots in the past where he's looked like he was supposed to win. We're gonna have to agree to disagree on this one.
Let's move on to the second race now. We're going to take a look at an off-the-turf race from Friday, race number 8, Sally and I Ain't No Saint in this one here. And Sally, a horse that coming in here obviously has some talent, has had some issues staying sound. Now, going to get hooked up here in an early speed duel with our fast favorite, a Cheap Claimer stepping up, who has a lot of speed, but I just didn't see any reason for these 2 to hook up early here.
Yeah, the tactics on Sally just seem surprising here. I mean, I understand that people, and there's I Ain't No Saint getting back in 5th, and of course he is one of 4 horses in this race that gets a nice setup in front of them. I understand that people were afraid that our fast favorite was going to get off on the lead by himself and just wire the field. I don't think you're supposed to have feared that. He's a much cheaper horse than these, and if he does that, the only way you were going to cause it not to happen was to do what Sally is doing here, which is your own detriment. I think you're supposed to let him go. Now, Sally runs a remarkable race, in my opinion, considering he finishes 3rd in this race after having this enormous pace duel here, and you'll see where our fast favorite finishes well back. But I Ain't No Saint is now moving up 4th on the inside. He'll be about to get into trouble.
Yeah, I Ain't No Saint is getting the dream set up here, and I think there's similar races to the one we showed last time out with Half a Note. I Ain't No Saint, I think, is getting an absolutely dream set up here because these horses are going to come back, but it's trouble getting through in between horses there. The hole kind of shuts off a little bit right here on I Ain't No Saint, and then the Lot Jock really just can't really ride him all that well down to the wire here. Tries to go inside again, and then is going to have to steady and then come outside of this horse here. So it's just a very, very tough setup here for I Ain't No Saint in the stretch. But that said, I think think he had a great pace to close into. Solly would be the one I'm interested in betting back next time.
Absolutely. If Solly can come back from this effort, we'll show you the head-on and see. I ain't no saying you can get another view of it. And it's not just that he's jammed up and trying to run. I mean, it's very much that. But also, while he's getting jammed up and trying to run, Due Date, the winner of this race, is getting that sweet, clean outside trip, and he's opening up on him. And as you watch the head-on, the pan shot before, I Ain't No Saint was really gaining on him at the end. And I think if they had both been moving unencumbered, that I Ain't No Saint would have won this race. Now, there's no question, I agree with you, you want Solly. The problem with Solly is, and I don't like to get into bounce situations, but you've got a horse that's run 2 races here and 2 races there over the course of the last 2 years, really. Now they finally get him back, and his first starts in Saratoga. He gets embroiled in that brutal pace duel. How can he possibly come back and run such a good race again?
I guess you would hope he'd maybe have like 5 weeks to his next start to be able to recover from that, so that wouldn't be a worry. But Connections couldn't have been too happy there. They obviously had this horse ready to run on Friday and just did not get the right kind of run.
No question. Solly was the best horse in there, and he doesn't need the lead to win. He's not even a speed horse, particularly. Right. He rates next time, gets in a fair race. He's supposed to win.
One more race, and we're going to take a look at the favorite colors from Saturday. Race number 5, a race in the mud here, and favorite colors might have been affected by a horse getting loose coming out of the gate here. John-Luc Samyn fell off I forget which horse this was that he fell off, the number 8 horse. But I think the 11 horse favorite colors a little bit bothered by this.
Yeah, and you see him going back to last there. We're not going to show the head on because it's just inconclusive, but it feels like he sort of broke a little slowly and then may have been intimidated as the other horse lost the rider. But whatever the case is in this race, favorite colors definitely finds himself towards the back of the pack. Now, in some ways, he has a good setup because you'll see on the pan him sort of saving ground. Now, it's a hard race to watch because you have to imagine the loose horse who ends up finishing in front in this race isn't in the race. So take him out of the race in your mind and look at the other horses. Now, favorite colors getting a nice trip sort of inside, moving up. And you can't see it that clearly in the pan. You'll see him sort of steadying the inside, but we're going to show you the head-on after the race. He has serious trouble in here as you see him steadying, and it's much more apparent in the head-on. And the winner of the race is the horse sitting second. But I think favorite colors, who had a good trip but some trouble, probably was best.
I think you could be right here. A couple of instances of trouble for favorite colors in the race. And we talked a little bit about whether or not we wanted to do this horse because now favorite colors is 0 for 12. But I think with favorite colors, you've had a trainer change over the last few months to trainer John Toscano. Only 3 starts so far for Toscano. The first one off a layoff, the last one on the turf, and then this start here. I think you can have legitimate reasons why you'd want to bet this horse back next time.
I don't disagree with that. And you can see how he angled out there in the stretch from the inside. Like I said, there were good things and bad things. But all in all, this was far and away the best effort he ever ran. I think you make a valid point. It's only the 3rd start for John Toscano. And here's the tower shot, the head-on tower shot. And you can see him moving up on the inside. He tries to go outside there. He's shut off again. Imagine what would have happened if he had been able to sweetly angle out there. And we're saying, imagine what would have happened if he had had a perfect trip in the race. But if he had been able to sweetly angle out at that point, he's going to get outside and he's going to win this race.
Yeah, only lost by a neck, and obviously if that doesn't happen, probably wins by a length.
Yeah, because he also wouldn't have gotten to that jackpot in the stretch where he had to, sort of alter course in the stretch. He ran the best race he's ever run. He's a long-time maiden, but I think your point about him being 3rd time for John Toscano is having a good year is a very good one. The problem is maybe he moved up in a wet track.
Yeah, well, we'll see what happens. The kind of field that she ends up in next time out, too. That'll play a factor, I'm sure, in determining the price on favorite colors, so we'll just have to stay tuned.
Yeah, I wouldn't dismiss this as a total aberration, this race, but that does it for this week's Trips and Traps. When we're back on July 1st, hopefully we'll have a lot of turf races this week. But once again, we love hearing from you. That email address is tripsandtraps@NYRAinc.com. Keep the emails coming, and thanks again for watching.